This is First Contact, Stories of the Call Center. The next topic that I wanted to cover is something that I think people, when they think of this technology, they also talk about, but they may not look at it the same way. So we talk about having better post-call analysis, right? That way you can increase the conversations, improve the relationship. But can you tell us, what do you think the future of post-call analytics is going to be, and how does your company fit into that?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on what kind of user you have. Because there is some portion of users who want to do post-call analysis. They want to do big batch analyses where they analyze 1 million calls at once and go develop models. And there are some teams that are really good at that. Two problems. One is when you do that, how do you your lead time is super long because you're doing this big analysis and you're spending usually months, no joke, months putting together a model. So it takes a long time to go from analysis to result. And then once you do it, where does that model go? You usually hand it to a sales leader, customer service leader, and they say, "Okay, thanks." But how do you actually get that model applied at scale across all of your sales and customer service people across your entire contact center? So those are two bottlenecks or challenges with post-call analysis, even though the ability to dig and mine for insights is useful. You can find great stuff there. I think the future on that side is particularly going to be on deflection, call deflection, interaction deflection, looking to find different use cases people are calling in with, so you can change your IVR, so you can change your chatbot to try to handle some of those cases proactively. I also think it could be particularly useful for marketing and product research. Voice of the customer, I think, is something that folks were really excited about 2 or 3 years ago, and now the interest is kind of dying down. And I think it's because we haven't done a good job of turning the voice of the customer into something useful. So when you look at what the future, I think that's kind of what the past of post-call analysis looks like, and ways you can use that post-call in a very still useful way and get a good ROI from it. But I think if you advance the field and say what's coming forward, I think it's post-call analysis where it immediately surfaces an insight. So post-call means like the second the call is done, the second that you can have an analysis that makes sense, your technology goes ding, 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 here's an insight. And the insight isn't a graph, it's not a number. It is like you can read it out like a sentence that says, here is something you should know. Now, the thing is, for post-call analysis to not get lost and not get stuck and not get bottleneck, what you need to do is you need to have a button that you can push that says, do something with this insight. I don't know what the something is. Balto has a bunch of ideas on our end. But is there some way that when you see the insight, you're able to hit a button or do an action right away that turns it into a result? So on Balto's side, I'll give you the example. We'll analyze calls after the fact, and we'll put up a recommendation that says this particular question that you're using, or this value proposition you're giving, or this way you're explaining something is effective 72% of the time. It's the most effective item. Push this button and all of your agents will start to see that on the next call. Or this one isn't effective. Push this button, we'll take it right out of your recommendation so no one is using that question anymore. It's the ability to connect the post-call analysis with the actual real-time experience that our people have when they're talking to customers live in their interactions.
So a couple questions around that, and this is kind of a little bit off topic, but a little bit aligned with what we're talking about, is out of pure curiosity, do you have the ability then to attach the outcome of that call to the analysis? So if that call was a productive call or a positive outcome, the way that the call is dispositioned, in essence, or otherwise, to be able to attach to what was said and use as actually benefiting or gaining the outcomes that you want. How are you tying back the data of things that you want as things said or recommended, tied back to the outcome that you're getting from that call?
Yep, we do, and it's absolutely critical that we do. Because the ability to, as you said, Christian, tie what is being said with did it work or did it not, turns Balto from a recommendation engine, which is the foundation of what we built, into the most powerful A/B testing system on planet Earth. The marketing world has been A/B testing since the Sears catalog in the 1800s. The sales and customer service world and contact center world isn't A/B testing anything except IVR selections, but not actually in the conversations. So because we're able to tie what is being said to the outcome, you can see when someone says talks about pricing this way, the call leads to a successful sale 72% of the time, versus if they talk about it this way, it's 50% of the time, versus talk about it this way, it's 10% of the time. So those analytics being presented is critical. And, I won't say too much here, but we do it, one, with analytics and models that essentially are looking for what a successful call is, which the user, in Balto has the ability to find. And we also have an API where people can actually essentially put right into our system their wins and losses. So we're able to see from your own data in your system without a model what is the source of truth. What is resulting in wins and what is not. We're able to link into your system to do that.